So for me, it was about looking at what students were coming from, and I realised that every single student was coming to my classroom having done subjects in their mother tongue, and now they were going to be in a French or German or Spanish classroom, and they were quite anxious about that. And actually, everybody's brain needs to take a little bit of time to adjust to that, you know, to transition from your entire, I don't know, if you had a 25-hour school week or a 30-hour school week, or if you had 10 lessons a day, if only one of those out of the other 8 or 9 were all in your mother tongue, you know, that one was in a foreign language, you needed to do something about it. And coming through the door, obviously often using music to invite them in, to could be in French, Spanish, German, Russian, it could be anything, just to get them in to kind of think, oh, there's music, where, you know, what are we doing today, and get them to listen to the song, or have a video playing, or have some images playing, getting them to think about things. The walls, I mean, my classrooms have always been, and I have got into bother for this actually, for not always asking permission from the site team, you know, the floors, the walls, around the board, the ceilings have always had displays, books, realia, magazines, things that the young people coming into my classroom could see and feel and touch and smell and kind of go, oh, wow, what is this? And also, when times was appropriate, you know, if I'd been on holiday, been overseas, could get something in, bringing something in that they could experience for themselves, or something they could see, eat, touch, you know, that whole sensory way of learning, and bringing them in that way. I want students to come into a classroom where it takes them from the world that they're in and catapults them to a different place. And that, for me, was my responsibility to do as a teacher, to hook them in, to entice them in, so they were really excited about coming to this classroom that looked different, sounded different. And actually, for the kids that I was teaching at the time, whether it's in the Forest of Dean or, you know, here in the Southwest, it might be their only opportunity to go to a seemingly foreign country. And that was through walking through my classroom door and just coming and experiencing that, and having that human connection with them, inviting them in, and saying that this was a safe, happy place with lots of bright colours, lots of different smells and sounds, good ones, I should say, in the classroom, and just making sure that they felt happy, safe, and felt that they could learn something really amazing here. I mean, for that, I mean, way back when, and maybe, you know, this may be the point of contention, but when those levels were in place, we all had to have those things in corridors, in classrooms, of showing kids how to advance from one to the other with a model. And I don't see why they've disappeared. And I know some schools have got rid of displays in classrooms and don't want to show kids best work, except for, like, you know, the front offices and the very front of school, which is, I think, is an absolute tragedy, because yes, we want the kids to own the classrooms, to own their space, to be proud, and actually when it is open day, to not just have, you know, the most perfect work. We need to show the process of learning, and actually use those walls, those ceilings, those floors, that space around the board, the corridors, you know, the backs of doors, the front of doors, the inside of cupboards, whatever, you know, open those spaces up and use those as a tool for learning. Claire said, you know, the third teacher, she's absolutely right. And if we're not doing that, then actually, are we using our classrooms to best support our kids once they're in there, you know, to activate them as learners, to remind them of what's expected, you know, for them to go up and say, I really like this, I'd like to be able to replicate it, because it, you know, somebody's shown them what they could do or what they might be able to do, and it's that expectation every single child in that classroom can achieve whatever stage, you know, that highest completed, most wonderful piece, if we show them and guide them how. So your walls are a scaffold to enable them to do that. Was such that I was in 5 different classrooms that day, so I'd put things on the exterior of the door with sort of coloured tape or police tape type stuff. You can get it off various different sites on the internet, to just get students thinking when they're there, so you've got them already thinking about that. But once you're in the classroom, it becomes your space, because then you create that music, you know, you bring in that music, you bring who you are. And I think you may not be able to create the most wonderful displays, and if you do create displays in this room, you know, sod's law, someone else is going to have booked that room, so you've got to go elsewhere. So, and you can't just spend 10 minutes rolling displays out to get up on the wall, but you can take things with you in the box. we can all find excuses for things, but it's finding a way around it, a creative solution around it. So do what you do, you know, your students want to learn from you, so bring your repertoire of things. So it might be a handful of things, sock puppets, it might be music, it might be magazines, it might be something, but make sure that you get it to that space beforehand. It's not difficult. We can make it difficult for ourselves, but it just takes a bit of organisation. So maybe 20 minutes going into school earlier that morning, instead of enjoying a coffee with your colleagues, you have to walk around and just deliver the things that you need for later in that day. But it can be done to make sure that those students have a purposeful learning experience and lesson with you where they do learn. It's not just we're in this room, it's not really ours, so we can't really do very much. I want to take them there during my lesson. I want them to see it and feel it. I can't necessarily take them to a market in Marrakesh, but do you know what? I can give them an opportunity and play them the sounds. And I think I'll never forget the time when we found a 360 video of the Eiffel Tower. Some very low ability students were saying, "Oh, you know, what is it? What is it? Is it even real?" I think it was about the time that Ratatouille, that Disney film, there are other films available, but you know, that come out, and kids weren't sure of it. So I showed them it, and their mind was blown. They couldn't believe it, and they felt they were there because we played some music, we had some, you know, in the background. They were just watching this in absolute awe. And I took them from where they were in that classroom to the Eiffel Tower, and they were like, "This is amazing, this is amazing." And that's what that connection is, and taking them from somewhere, you know, from a normal school curriculum, a normal school day, overseas to experience something that they might not at that point in time have ever thought they would ever be able to.